Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Today I'm going to share with you some tips on how to successfully marry a Filipina. When it comes to marrying a Filipina, there's two things. It's either the best or the worst decision you will ever make in your life. That's why it's very important to be wise. A lot of foreigners are living the dream because they knew what they were doing. On the other hand, some foreigners discover the problems with marrying a Filipina the hard way. In a fit of excitement, they failed to consider the disadvantages of marrying a Filipina. So today I'm going to share with you some tips so you could successfully marry a Filipina. Okay, here is my first advice on how to successfully marry a Filipina. It is very important to be sensible. And you can start doing this by doing research. Information is crucial, especially when you're talking to someone online. Nowadays, there's so many scammers out there, and if you're not careful, you could become a victim. All right? So, gather as much information as you can. I'm not saying you should be stalking someone's social media because that is illegal, I think. And that is creepy. Don't do that. What I'm saying is try to double check the information you're given. Don't be just, a blind fool and just sit there and think every single information she or he is giving you is the truth. That's a lot of times people get, scammed because of just believing whatever they're told. Try to double check. A lot of times, especially nowadays, a lot of information are available to everybody. Everybody has social media accounts now. It's not really that hard to double check. So, with that information at hand, try to be rational because a lot of times, even though people already have the information and a lot of this information might be considered red flags, a lot of times they still don't make a logical decision because when you're already emotionally invested, a lot of people just completely get clouded, their minds clouded because of their emotions and feelings. And when it comes to men as well, when they become very attracted to someone physically, they completely forget everything else. So no matter how physically attracted you are to someone, don't forget don't forget why you're even looking in the first place. People when they start they have this goal and then all of a sudden they get overwhelmed because of, certain reasons, whether that's physical attraction and your lust and you're already invested to someone. It's very very important um, to be rational. Don't forget to act in accordance to your, to reason and logics. Okay, it's also very important to be realistic. Everybody has expectations, right? Nowadays, with a lot of content and information available online, especially when it comes to the Passport Bro movement, I think a lot of people have this expectations that, oh, if I leave, because the problem really is the women in the West. If I leave and I go to the other side of the world, all these problems are gonna be, gonna be fixed. You will be disappointed because that's not necessarily true. A lot of the things that you find to be unpleasant here, you go on the other side, you'll find that that's also present there. It's not always good, and to have the expectation that all the women on the other side of the world, for example, the Philippines, they're all traditional. You're wrong. There's a lot of good, there's also a lot of bad. So be realistic when it comes to your expectations. And again, it's hard to be realistic when you don't have enough information. So yeah, gather as much information as you can. Another thing that's very important is to be responsible. Once you've made your decision, and I'm talking about people who are like talking to other people online, I think it's very important to prove that you're trustworthy. I've heard of people saying, you know what, when you're talking to someone online, especially long distance, don't just talk to one person, talk to many people, have a backup plan. Now, that sounds like a good idea until that happens to you. You're the one talking to someone, and then you find out they're talking to several people, not just you. That's not a good way to start. A good relationship should start with, trust. And, you should be able to prove that you're a trustworthy. You're a person who can be trusted. On the other hand, you want someone like that too. So if you think it's okay for you to be talking to everybody while you're talking to her, and then you expect she's only talking to you, I mean, ain't gonna work. So a lot of foreigners get in trouble for this because, again, they're like, well, I don't want to, waste this trip. I want to make sure I have a plan B if this doesn't work. That's not gonna work. I'm the type of person, I think you should just, when it comes to love and marriage, it's all or nothing. One person and focus on that. Because if you're distracted because you're talking to so many people, that's not gonna be a good thing, really. A lot of people get in trouble for this. They go there with the plan of, if plan A doesn't work, I have a plan B, I have a plan C. On the other hand, they find out that other person is doing the same exact thing and they get so disappointed. Well, my next step is very, very important, and that is putting the time to get to know your Filipina. And when I say time, as much time as you can. Nowadays, so many platforms are available for people to stay connected. I mean, it doesn't really even cost any money anymore. I remember back in the day when my husband and I were talking. I mean, it costs at least 25 to $30 to talk for an hour. Nowadays, you got Facebook Messenger. You can call and stay on that call for as long as you can, as long as you have, like, internet connection. So staying connected and getting to know people that way is very easy now. And when you're having that conversation with her, focus on the important conversation. A lot of people get distracted by how attracted someone is or attractive someone is. Oh, she's so pretty, she's so sexy, she's so nice to me, she's so sweet. I mean, those are nice things, but those are not the most important things. When you're having a conversation, focus on the things that really matters. Ask her things that matters, like if you're spiritual, talk about your faith, your religious beliefs. Ask her intentions, her goals, everything that you can ask her. Ask her those important questions. And a lot of people get overwhelmed by the things that are not really important. They forget the things that really matter. So get to know your Filipina. Another thing that's very important, and it's probably as important as knowing your Filipina, is knowing her family. I've mentioned in one of my videos that when you marry a Filipina, you also marry her family. It's very important to know her family because her relationship with her family will greatly impact her relationship with you. Now, while you're at it, get to know what kind of relationship she has with her family. If she's the type of Filipino who thinks blood is thicker than water, then you may have to really assess the situation. You may have to reconsider. Now, some people might probably get triggered by this, but when you meet the Filipina like that, what does it mean? Blood is thicker than water. Well, that simply means you're not gonna be her top priority. Her top priority is her family. And if she has that mindset and she comes from a very poor background, that means their livelihood is gonna be her priority, not your family that you're gonna build with her. So that is very important. And I mentioned that even though I know some people is gonna be upset by this, specifically Filipinos, but I mentioned that because I've seen that my observation is that a lot of marriages do end up broken because of that situation. A lot of Filipinas feel like, oh, my relationship with this man is gonna be all good. It's gonna be, we're gonna be happy for as long as my family back home is happy. Well, if that's the mindset she has, then again, that's something you have to reconsider. Now, if that doesn't bother you, that her priority is not you but her family back home, then I guess that could work. But for many people that I know of that had that kind of situation, never works. A lot of people do end up getting divorced. So yes, you have to really get to know her family, and the only way for you to really know her family is to spend time with them. Go visit, spend the time with the family, get to know everyone, get to know the culture. That's very important as well. Getting to know the culture, how the family, dynamics work. Again, you're gonna have to really spend the time not just with her but with her family as well. Another thing that's very important when you're talking to someone, especially when you're talking to someone online, is to be very honest and to be genuine. And nowadays with social media platforms, it's not that hard to get a glimpse of what someone looks like. Back in the day, people wrote each other letters. So the only way you can really get a glimpse of someone's like physical appearance is to get a picture. I remember the story in the documentary, and this ended up tragically, this relationship, a Filipina and an American. The guy was like, they were writing each other letters, right? And he was sending her letters of his younger self, like really younger self. And so she was expecting that she's gonna meet this, handsome young man, and then they finally met in person, and he was like almost in his 50s. So she was really devastated. So yeah, it's very important to, like, to be very honest. Nowadays, again, with social media, it's not that hard to find really someone and how what they look like, but I'm talking about credentials. Some people lie or exaggerate their credential when it comes to, their occupation, their educational background, where they're from, or even how much they make and stuff they have, just to entice someone. A lot of times, that by itself is also like a red flag. That's not a good way to start. If you're like lying just to entice someone and get them to like you that way, that means you're not confident at all. On the other hand, I've also heard of some Filipinas using that on their advantage. I mean, again, like, sending certain things, and a lot of people get scammed because a lot of people are dishonest. In the Philippines, and you've probably heard of stories about this. There's no divorce in the Philippines, and a lot of men do end up talking to women who they say are separated. Yes, probably separated, but again, there's no divorce there. So a lot of situations like that happen because people are dishonest. So it's very important to be very honest. And yes, you hope and pray that you're also talking to someone who's honest. But nowadays, again, with social media, do your research, because a lot of times, some people are not very careful. They might be saying one thing to you, but if you just do a little bit of research, not necessarily a background check, but just a research, you'll find that some of the things that the person's telling you is probably incorrect. So yes, honesty is the best policy. And if you expect someone to be honest to you, do the same. So those are my tips on how to successfully marry a Filipina. If you have any question, please add it in my comment section below. I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye guys.